The former Jasper Cabinet building will soon have new life. More on those plans, plus Huntingburg hosted its Mayor's Forum last night, and Jasper City Council at-large candidate Nancy Eckerly sits down with Bill Potter for tonight's Meet the Candidates. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin with new life for the vacant Jasper Cabinet buildings along the Patoka River. Last night, the Jasper City Council heard plans for the revitalization of the property. Indianapolis-based developer Boxer Girl LLC will be turning the building into a mixed-use space, which will be named River Center. Now, the project will be a $26 million investment. It will feature a hotel, 36,000 square feet of office and commercial spaces, and 75 market-rate apartments for workforce housing. The apartments will be 1- and 2-bedroom units and will be on the upper 2 floors of the building. The hotel will be owned by Indianapolis-based General Hotels Corporation, which also owns the Crown Plaza Hotel inside of Indianapolis's Union Station, among other properties. Mayor Terry Seitz and the City Council were both happy to see use for the Jasper Cabinet building, which has been empty since 2002. While very excited about this project, Seitz says TIF played a key role in making this a reality.
The development approximately is between $26 and $30 million proposed in a factory that's been empty all of this century, and we're just thoroughly excited. We believe that this again shows that Jasper's been on the right direction the last 4 years, and that the creation of the TIF is exactly what called this into play, because they told us tonight to the council, without a TIF being created last year, they would have never come and looked at it this year, and I think we did the right thing.
The design process is expected to continue next year and into 2017. Construction should get underway sometime in 2017 or 2018. Work should take 1.5 years to 2 years to complete once everything gets started. Of course, this project had been discussed in vague detail over the last couple of months by the Jasper Redevelopment Commission. The RDC passed a declaratory resolution for the project at their September meeting, which created a separate tax increment finance district specifically for the Jasper Cabinet property. That TIF, known as the Jasper Riverfront TIF, will stay in place for this project. It was all part of a busy night last night for the council. The council also voted to allow Phase 2 of the Jasper Lofts project and the Vine Street Lofts project to advance. The combined total of the investments voted on last night, roughly $50 million. Speaking of the new investments, state officials are starting to take notice of all of the recent development news in Jasper. Today, Indiana Economic Development Corporation Chairman Jim Schellinger spent part of his day in Jasper. The day included tours of the new areas and was highlighted by a luncheon at Clubhouse 61. Schellinger says he was impressed with what he saw, and there are things the state can learn from what Jasper is doing.
I'll go back and say, even some of the communities that didn't qualify from a population standpoint for the Regional Cities Initiative are still doing the same collaborative effort that they're doing throughout the state. And then I'll take Representative Braun's comments back to say that there should be some consideration for the smaller communities to be able to participate in the Regional Cities Initiative as well.
Schellinger was appointed as head of the IEDC back in late July. He replaced Eric Doden, who stepped down in May to take a job in his home city of Fort Wayne. Schellinger spent the bulk of his time discussing Indiana's newly passed Regional Cities Initiative. That initiative was passed during this year's legislative session, and the plan aims to invest $84 million into major cities in seven different regions. The program is being funded through collections from this year's statewide tax amnesty program. Of course, Evansville, Indianapolis, and Fort Wayne are among the major Indiana cities to be involved. Schellinger says there could be some changes to the Regional Cities program to accommodate smaller communities like Jasper sometime down the road. Well, last night it was Huntingburg's turn to host a mayor's forum ahead of November's city elections. A large crowd filed into the Huntingburg Event Center to hear from Republican incumbent Mayor Denny Spenner and Democratic challenger Ron Drew. The two key issues to come out of the night were fiscal responsibility as it relates to the city's Stellar Communities designation and continued development of workforce housing. Now, the city passed a 2016 budget of just over $10 million. Spenner says the city's assessed value also rose for the third straight year, coming in at $160 million this year. Spenner says property values and the city budget will continue to go hand in hand.
It's a pretty simple formula. It's complex, yet it's simple. If we continue to raise property values, we will continue to be able to control the budget. Budget growth and property value has got to be tied one to the other. If we do not get property growth, we must maintain the budget where it is.
On a somewhat related note, Drew called for a need to balance the Stellar Communities projects with the needs of infrastructure within the city, such as streets and sidewalks. Drew says he supports the Stellar Communities effort, but balance will remain key for the future.
I think Stellar, once it gets going, will take care of itself. I think there'll be different people that are working on those projects. Obviously, we're going to be in and out of that, but I look at it as two different ideals here. You got Stellar and you got your city. And there's people in our city that's quite capable of taking care of it. Our employees are good employees. We just have to make sure that we communicate what we want.
The second major issue raised during the forum was growth, especially when it comes to housing. Of course, two major housing projects are already underway in Huntingburg. Those are the lofts at St. Joseph's, which will be for seniors aged 65 and older, and the recently announced Hunters Crossing subdivision, which will build more than 120 new homes in an area between 14th and 17th Streets. The new homes will have a price point of $150,000. Spinner says the city is already moving ahead on the housing issue. He announced last night that the city will be the subject of a new Indiana rural housing study. The study, which is being done by the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs in partnership with Purdue University, will yield yet another workforce housing development.
By November of next year, we will have an application in place for rent property that'll provide, again, a housing opportunity for the workforce. And those are those entry-level workers, the first-time workers that will come to our area. So the plan is in place. Another way that we're addressing that is we are addressing our code to provide for a more streamlined way for developers to come and be part of Huntingburg.
Meanwhile, Drew took issue with the proposed price of homes in the Hunters Crossing subdivision. He says the pricing just doesn't work for most families.
Unless they've changed the math recently, I don't know how that works. By the time somebody, even with a wife that's making the same amount of money, by the time you do this, you've got bills, you've got kids, you've got stress already, and now you're trying to figure out why. And I'm sure there's some different loans there would be available, but they're talking 20% down. You're talking $30,000 on a $28,000 job and a $150,000 home.
18 WJTS recorded the forum and will re-air it on TV at a later date. And finally tonight, you're running out of time to apply for absentee voting through the mail. DuBois County Clerk Bridget Jarbo says the deadline for those applications is 4 o'clock this upcoming Monday, October 26th. Jarbo says anyone who calls after Monday will only be allowed to vote in-person absentee or by travel board. Now, early voting hours continue through Monday, November 2nd at the DuBois County Courthouse. This Saturday, October 24th, will be the first of 2 Saturdays with voting hours at the courthouse. This Saturday and next Saturday, October 31st, you'll be able to cast an early vote between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. each day. Next week, we'll see the opening of satellite voting locations at the Huntingburg Event Center and at the Ferdinand Community Center. Hours and dates in Huntingburg will be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday, October 29th and Friday, October 30th, and from 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday, October 31st. Also, the Ferdinand Community Center will offer voting from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Thursday, October 29th, and from 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday the 31st. Of course, whether you want to vote early or on Election Day, you must show a valid photo ID before you are allowed to cast your vote. Any questions, you can call the DuBois County Clerk's office at 812-481-7035. Nancy Eckerly joins Bill Potter for Meet the Candidates. We're back after this.